September 1221 AD, Parwan Valley, Afghanistan. For 40 years, the Mongol war machine had been unstoppable. Under Genghis Khan, they had conquered from China to Eastern Europe. Every kingdom that faced them was destroyed. Every army that resisted was slaughtered. The Mongols had never lost a major battle. But on this day, in a narrow mountain valley in Afghanistan, a desperate Muslim prince with 60,000 warriors would do the impossible. He would defeat a Mongol army. He would prove Genghis Khan could bleed. This is the story of Sultan Jalal ad-Din Mingburnu, the warrior prince who won the greatest victory against the Mongols, then lost everything because of a white horse. This is the Battle of Parwan. In 1219, Genghis Khan invaded the Khwarezmian Empire with 200,000 soldiers. The Khwarezmian Empire was massive, stretching from Persia to Central Asia, with 400,000 troops. They should have been able to resist. They couldn't. Within 2 years, the Mongols destroyed the entire empire. City after city fell. Bukhara burned. Samarkand, the capital, was captured. The Mongol strategy was simple and terrifying. Surrender immediately and live as slaves, or resist and every man, woman, and child dies. Most cities chose to surrender. Those that didn't were erased from existence. In 1220, the Shah Muhammad II fled west pursued by the Mongol generals. He died alone on an island in the Caspian Sea, his empire destroyed, his army scattered. The Mongols had won. The Islamic world of Central Asia was finished. But the Shah had a son who refused to accept defeat. His name was Jalal ad-Din Mingburnu, and he was about to write one of history's extraordinary chapters. Jalal ad-Din was born into royalty, but lived like a warrior. He was the eldest son of Shah Muhammad II, but his mother was a concubine, not the official queen. This meant powerful nobles at court hated him and supported his younger half-brother for the throne. When the Mongols invaded, Jalal ad-Din commanded armies alongside his father. He saw the Mongol tactics firsthand. He learned how they fought, how they moved, how they destroyed everyone. When his father fled and died, Jalal ad-Din didn't run. He went to Ghazni, his father's old base. Word spread that the prince was gathering an army to resist the Mongols. Something incredible happened. Afghan tribesmen from the mountains came. Turkish cavalry came. Survivors from destroyed Khwarezmian armies came. They were poorly equipped. Many had no armor, but they were willing to fight. Within months, Jalal ad-Din had assembled 60,000 warriors. He knew the Mongols would come for him. He welcomed it. He sent messages to Genghis Khan challenging him to battle. But Genghis Khan was busy destroying other cities. He sent one of his generals, Shigi Kotuku, with 30,000 to 40,000 Mongols to crush this annoying prince. The two armies marched toward each other. They met at Parwan Valley, north of Kabul, surrounded by mountains. The terrain would decide everything. When the Mongols arrived at Parwan Valley in September 1221 AD, they expected an easy victory. They had crushed every army before. Why would this be different? But Jalal ad-Din had chosen his ground carefully. The valley was narrow, rocky, and surrounded by steep hills. This was terrible terrain for Mongol cavalry. The Mongols' greatest strength was their mobility, their ability to maneuver and fire arrows while riding at fast speed. In this tight valley, packed with 90,000 soldiers total, there was no room for fancy cavalry tactics. On the first day, the Mongols probed the Muslim defenses. Jalal ad-Din had positioned his forces brilliantly. His infantry held the high ground and the narrow passes. His cavalry waited for the right moment. When the Mongols attacked, they were channeled into killing zones where Muslim arrows rained down on them. The Mongols withdrew to regroup. They had faced strong resistance before, but they always found a way to win. Shigi Kotuku tried a clever trick on the second day. He dressed straw dummies in armor and mounted them on spare horses, making his army look larger. He hoped to intimidate the Muslims. Jalal ad-Din wasn't fooled. He had fought Mongols before. He recognized the trick. On the third day, Shigi Kutuku decided to commit everything. The Mongol right flank charged hard at one of Jalal ad-Din's divisions, commanded by a general named Igrak. The Afghans responded by firing arrows while dismounted, creating a defensive wall. The Mongols tried their famous feigned retreat, pretending to flee to draw the enemy into a trap. Some of Igrak's men fell into the trap. 500 were killed. For a moment, it seemed the Mongols were winning. Then, Jalal ad-Din personally led a countercharge. The prince rode at the head of his cavalry, shouting encouragement, leading from the front. His cavalry smashed into the Mongols, driving them back. The narrow terrain worked against the Mongols. They couldn't maneuver. They couldn't use their superior mobility. They were being crushed in close combat by warriors fighting for their homes and their faith. The Mongol lines broke. For the first time in their campaigns under Genghis Khan, Mongol soldiers turned and ran. Jalal ad-Din ordered a full pursuit. His warriors chased the fleeing Mongols for miles, cutting them down. Large numbers of Mongols were captured alive. The Muslims executed them by driving stakes through their ears, a brutal act of revenge for all the Mongol atrocities. When the dust settled, Shigi Kutuku had lost over half his army. Perhaps 15,000 Mongol soldiers were dead or captured. The invincible Mongol army had been destroyed. News of the victory spread across the Islamic world like wildfire. Cities that had surrendered to the Mongols rebelled. Herat rose up. Merv drove out the Mongol garrison. Everywhere, people whispered, "The Mongols can be beaten." Jalal ad-Din sent a message to Genghis Khan. "In which locality do you want the battle to be so that we may make our way to it?" It was a challenge, a taunt. "Come and face me yourself." Genghis Khan would accept. Victory defeated Jalal ad-Din. After the battle, his soldiers gathered the spoils from the dead Mongols. Among the loot was a beautiful white Mongolian horse, a prize of great value. Two of Jalal ad-Din's top commanders both claimed it. One was Amin Malik, leader of the Turkish cavalry and Jalal ad-Din's father-in-law. The other was Saif al-Din Igrak, leader of the Afghan warriors. They argued. Then Amin Malik struck Igrak with a whip. That whip strike destroyed everything. Igrak was furious at the insult. Jalal ad-Din tried to mediate, but he sided with his father-in-law. That night, Igrak and 30,000 Afghan warriors left the camp. They abandoned Jalal ad-Din and marched home. In one night, Jalal ad-Din lost half his army over a horse. When Genghis Khan heard about the Mongol defeat at Parwan, he was enraged. This was the first major defeat the Mongols had suffered. Genghis Khan personally led a massive army south to Afghanistan, determined to destroy Jalal ad-Din. Genghis Khan also gave orders that had nothing to do with military strategy. At the siege of Bamiyan, his favorite grandson Motagen was killed by an arrow. Genghis Khan ordered the entire population of Bamiyan massacred. Every man, woman, child, and animal. The city was leveled. Nothing was left. It became known as the City of Screams. Now, Genghis Khan was coming for Jalal ad-Din with 3 of his sons and over 50,000 troops. Jalal ad-Din knew he couldn't win with his reduced army. He made the painful decision to retreat to India, hoping to find refuge there and rebuild. But Genghis Khan moved faster. In November 1221, Jalal ad-Din reached the Indus River with about 30,000 men and thousands of refugees. He was preparing boats to cross into India when scouts brought terrible news. Genghis Khan's army was coming. There was no time to cross. Jalal ad-Din formed his army for battle with the river at their backs. It was a desperate position. If they lost, there was nowhere to retreat. Genghis Khan deployed his forces in a crescent shape, with his 3 sons commanding different wings. He personally commanded the reserves. The Mongol army outnumbered the Muslims significantly. At dawn, the battle began. Jalal ad-Din's wings fought desperately, holding their ground against overwhelming numbers. The prince himself commanded the center, leading charge after charge to drive back the Mongols. For hours, his men fought with incredible courage. But slowly, inevitably, the Mongol numbers told. The Mongol wings began to collapse. Soldiers fell back toward the river. The Mongols pressed forward. The battle was lost. Jalal ad-Din knew it was over. His men had given everything, but he refused to be captured. With a final desperate charge, his bodyguards bought him a few moments. Then, Jalal ad-Din did something that would become legendary. Still wearing his armor, still carrying his weapons, he spurred his horse and rode straight off the cliff into the Indus River, plunging 20 feet into the raging waters. The river was swollen from rain, over 20 feet deep with a fierce current. Everyone thought he would drown, but somehow Jalal ad-Din and his horse made it across to the far shore. Genghis Khan watched from the cliff. Mongol archers raised their bows to shoot him. Genghis Khan stopped them. According to the sources, he said, "A father who has such a son is truly a happy man." Then he forbade anyone from pursuing or harming Jalal ad-Din. It was the highest compliment Genghis Khan could give, respect for an enemy's courage. The Battle of Parwan remains the only major field battle where Genghis Khan's armies were decisively defeated. It proved the Mongols could be beaten through superior tactics and use of terrain. But the victory was wasted. Internal divisions, symbolized by the fight over a white horse, destroyed Jalal ad-Din's army and his chances of driving the Mongols from the region. Jalal ad-Din survived and continued fighting for another 10 years, carving out small kingdoms in Persia and Georgia, always on the run. He was finally killed by Kurdish assassins in 1231. He never reclaimed his father's empire, but he earned something more valuable: eternal glory as the warrior who defeated Genghis Khan when everyone else failed.